Greetings all. I'm Janice Lane, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning here at City Schools, and we are so excited that you're joining us. This partnership between our Family and Community Engagement Office and academics is the first of 3 in our pre-KK roundup events that will lead us and prepare us for the first day of school. So we couldn't be more excited that you have joined us tonight. We'll be starting up virtually, and our goal is to make sure to share updates about both pre-K and kindergarten and making sure that you know what to expect and how you can support resources that are available to you. Before we get started, I want to make sure to introduce you to some of our panelists and guests this evening that they're joining us. They will make sure that they give you some information and take questions from you as well. First, I'd like to introduce Crystal Francis. Crystal, if you want to turn on and give everybody a quick wave. Crystal is our Director of Early Learning, and she'll be talking with you shortly. We also have Brandon Tillman. Brandon, if we can see you and get a quick wave as well. Brandon is our Director of Enrollment, Choice, and Transfer. He'll also be talking about ways to engage throughout and making sure that you have information about what you need and what needs to happen moving forward. And then finally, we have Shana McIver. Shana, you want to wave? She's our Director of Family Engagement and has lots of wonderful information to share with you as well. Before we get started, I know that there are lots of questions that you have, and don't worry, we'll make sure to get to them. We'll have folks that will be answering in writing, whether you're with us live on Facebook or whether you're in Zoom or Teams meeting, or Zoom in Spanish. We'll be typing some responses to your answers. Feel free to type your questions in the Q&A. And then we'll also stop at meaningful chunks to have a 10-minute conversation. So I'll be pulling some of your questions and asking the experts that are here with us. I just wanted to make sure that you feel most welcome and know that this is the first of a 3-part series. I'll go through what we'll cover at the end of those series, but really tonight our goal is to make sure that you understand both the pre-K and K programs that we're offering virtually coming up in the fall. We'll also be talking about enrollment, so making sure that you have all of the pieces that you need to have your students enrolled in city schools. And then finally, we'll be talking about family resources that are available to you and to your students as well. So I'm going to introduce Crystal. She'll come to the floor and give a quick overview this evening. And I hope you can continue those questions coming to us in the chat. So Crystal, I will turn to you.
Thanks, Janice. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. We're so excited that you all joined us this evening. So we wanted to kind of give you a quick and brief overview of what you can expect with your pre-K and K students for this upcoming school year. We do understand that things look very different than anything that we ever could have imagined. And so for a lot of our little ones, they were very excited about being able to come into school and meet their teachers. So that's going to look a little bit different this year, but we just wanted to walk you through what that would look like. So the first thing that we wanted to do is kind of explain some of the terms that you're likely going to be hearing from your teacher, that you'll also probably be hearing from principals, and that is synchronous and asynchronous. So when you hear or when you see synchronous, that means learning that is happening live online with your teacher. When you see asynchronous, that is learning that is happening, it's just you and your child or just your child online, and that can happen at any point during the day. So as we know, we are trying to make sure that we're thinking about our little ones, how much time they're spending on the screen, how much time they can actually give their attention to something. So we wanted to be really thoughtful for our 4- and 5-year-olds to think about how long we want them on screen, but what is it that we want them to do while they're there. So if you look at this slide, you'll see that during our synchronous learning, and again, that's live when you're with your teacher, that's when your students are going to get all of their new learning. They're going to have small group breakout sessions with their teachers and with their paraeducators. And then if you go over here, you'll see asynchronous. So again, that's still going to be online, or that's also going to be flexible for you to happen whenever you want it to happen in your day. But we really want to make sure that students are having opportunities to play. We want to make sure that they're still getting hands-on learning, and we want to make sure that we are able to kind of review some of the topics that they're covering with their teachers. So if we look over at the next slide, we're going to show you a couple of samples of what your day could look like. So if you've seen some of the larger schedules that have been in the presentations from Dr. S and from our Chief Academic Officer, Chief John Davis, you will see that we've got a couple of different schedules up here for our pre-K students. So in the dark boxes, you'll see this synchronous learning. That's the learning when your child will be online. And in the lighter boxes, you'll see those are activities and things that your child will do, and they don't necessarily have to be right online, or that doesn't necessarily have to fall within any kind of particular schedule. So if you'll see on this schedule, we've got morning meeting that's happening first thing. You've got your whole group new learning that's going on with your teacher. We wanted to make sure that we added in a break for our students, because we know they can't attend for a super long time. Then they can come back and have small group learning with their teacher and their paraeducator. And then we really wanted to make sure that we're focusing on social emotional learning with an optimistic closure for our students. And then after that, you'll see all of the things that you're familiar with: lunch, play. We really want to make sure that we're building in time for family projects, reading books together, all of the things that our students would typically do in their classroom with their friends. We're really going to be looking for them to be able to do that at home with their families, with their siblings, and if you're comfortable with folks who are really close to your family. If you go to the next slide, this is another schedule of another way that you may be able to have your learning. So on this schedule, you'll see that we've got our whole group learning that's happening first thing in the morning, just like at the last schedule. But then we've got the asynchronous time, and that's the time when you can schedule online. That's happening right after the whole group. So really, you can kind of move this around so that it makes sense for the schedule for you. So you should have a conversation with your teacher when they give you a call and let them know what makes sense for you and for your family. Sometimes it's much easier for families to do their shared playtime or their reading later on in the day, because that's after parents have gotten off from work, or maybe you've got some other siblings who are online earlier in the day. So we wanted to make sure that we provided some flexibilities here to families. So this schedule is the same schedule that you saw on the earlier page, but it's just a little bit flexible and allows you to do it in a different way. So on the next slide, we wanted to show you and talk to you about some of the things that students are going to learn while they're in pre-K. And so we're so excited when students come in, because this is the time when they're learning so many things, math and literacy, the things that are setting them up and getting them ready for when they get older. And so we've got social foundations, and that's really that social emotional learning that we want to make sure that our students know how to play with each other, that they're having great interactions with their friends. Foundational math skills. So everything that students eventually will learn when they learn how to multiply or divide, all of those foundational skills happen when students are 4 years old. Foundational language and literacy. So before students can read books and read chapter books, we really need to make sure that they know their letters, they know sounds, and they know how to put all of those things together. And then physical well-being and motor development. So again, as we talked about before, really wanting to make sure that children are able to play, get out, run around, jump up and down, find your local playground, and just really have a great time. And as you see on this cloud up here, we've got science and social studies that are embedded throughout all of these things. So you can do a science experiment and discuss math. You can do a science experiment and also learn about reading. So all of these things can really be embedded throughout your day. So I guess I can stop here, Janice, and see if anyone has any questions.
That's great. Thank you, Crystal. Yes, there are a few questions that are already flowing in, and hopefully more will join us. There is one that I just did confirmation around, so I can share that this presentation will be made available. We are recording the session, and will be made available on our website. So you can have access to both the recording and the slides that you'll be able to see and review with people. So Crystal, one of the questions that came up you addressed, but I think is really important, especially for our earliest learners. We've had ongoing conversations across the district about screen time. So there's a parent who wants to know, will their kindergarten student be expected to be on screen for the entirety of the class time? Or will he or she have time to complete play and learn different types of assignments?
That's a great question. That's a question that we've been hearing a lot. So what we want to build up our students' stamina. So we know in the beginning of the year that all this is going to be new for our students. And so they're not all going to be able to attend and to sit online for as long as we want to kind of build them to. So we totally understand that as students are learning that it's going to take some time. We do want to make sure that students are able to attend while they're online with their teacher, because that's when so much of that good learning is going to occur. But again, you'll see in these schedules that there is time for when students are online and when they're with their teacher. And then there's going to be some built-in time for when they can have those hands-on experiences with you as the parent. They can interact with their siblings. So it really is going to be based on how your classroom teacher kind of designs what your classroom structure is going to look like.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Another one that's connected to that, the parents shared that they, understand what asynchronous learning will happen, but they talked about the most important and meaningful experiences during the pandemic were connections that were made with art teacher and the PE teacher. They've gone leaps and bounds above to reach out to their child's class and make them feel like things are normal. How will this happen in schools to ensure accountability and making sure that art and PE happen, especially knowing, that there's different principles, there's different opportunities. So I'll give you that part and then I'll give you a second chunk in a minute.
Sure. So we've had, conversations with our arts teachers, our PE teachers, and they, you're right, just did really amazing things over while we were virtual in the spring, and they're going to continue to do that work for us in the fall. So we've built in some time in the schedule where they can either present their lessons asynchronously, so they can kind of pre-record something, and then your student will be able to look at it later. Or there may be an option where they can also kind of pop into that teacher's classroom and then they can introduce some things. The great thing about things like art and PE, especially when students are this age, is that you can incorporate a couple of different things. So you can do a PE activity and counting at the same time, or you can do art and you can also work on letters and sounds while you're doing that. So we think it's very important, and we know that our teachers are ready to step up so that they can make sure that they're integrating all of that really well.
Thank you, Crystal. Also, questions about, will art supplies or other activity supplies be available for students? Will the school provide these, and any additional details you have around those pieces?
Yep, so we're really working on trying to figure out how to get that for all of our students. I think the first thing is you could reach out to your school and see if they've got some materials at the school. We also can share some really kind of inexpensive, some dollar store finds that you can get. We really just want to make sure that students have, pens, pencils, crayons, paper, glue sticks, some of those very, very basic things that really aren't expensive, so that students can really start exploring. Whiteboards are really great and awesome because they allow students to kind of make mistakes and try again. So we're working on and really trying to figure out how we can make sure that we can get those materials out to you all. But the first place I would go to is ask your school, and then we're going to try to see if we can get that together for you as well.
That's great. So another question that came up, this one's an easy one, Crystal, I'll let you take a breath for a minute. Okay. Families are asking about the platform, whether that will be Zoom for our earliest learners, and we will be introducing Seesaw as a platform. We had lots of feedback from teachers and from families that Seesaw was a great resource, And actually, we'll be talking about that in our third of the series to really go through and show you what that looks like. So that's a little hook to make you come back for series number 3. And we'll really unpack and talk through that one. Crystal, here's another interesting one. My son struggled to sit for more than 40 minutes during his virtual learning in the spring for pre-K. Is it realistic to think that a 5-year-old can sit for 160 minutes a day for live learning? So if you can give folks a little bit of a flavor around what that time frame could include and will include.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to just be a full sitting right there for that whole 160 minutes. So the way in which lessons have been designed, students are going to have almost kind of like mini chunks of things that they're going to do. So it may be that they're doing 10 minutes of some foundational literacy activity, and then maybe they're going to do a 5-minute scavenger hunt around the house. Maybe then they're going to come back for another 10 minutes to do something, and then maybe there'll be a 5-minute video presentation. So our teachers are really making sure that they're not designing something where students have to just sit in one place for all of that time. I think as all of us have seen from working from home, like no one really wants to just sit behind a computer for the whole day. So the teachers are making sure that they are building up lessons that are appropriate for students and that include a lot of different ways in which to teach them, so that it's not just a straight sit through for that 160 minutes, but it's going to be really engaging for them for the whole time.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. I think what we're going to do is move into now talking about our kindergarten schedule. Again, please keep the questions coming. We have some experts answering them in the background. And if we didn't get to your question, we'll make sure to capture those and post those afterwards and send them to you via email. But Crystal, I'm going to turn back to you and let you go over kindergarten for us now, please.
Sure. So you'll see in kindergarten, very similarly to what we've got in pre-K. So again, we've got the synchronous learning that's happening up top and then the asynchronous over there. Again, new learning is going to be happening while students are with their teacher. There's also small group instruction that is built into the schedule. And then during the asynchronous time, students are really going to be able to review videos and read alouds and do virtual field trips and all of these really interesting and amazing things that are going to be supporting the learning that's happening with them while they're with their teacher. So if we go to the next slide, we wanted to show you a sample schedule for our kindergarten students. And so again, in the orange, we've got the online time, the synchronous time, and then in the white, we've got that asynchronous time. And so as you see, the blocks of time are really kind of broken out. And so you've got whole group literacy. Again, it's going to be a lot of different pieces of things that are happening during that whole group literacy time. And then small group. Small group is going to be a time when the teacher can break out, have students go out to breakout rooms, and is really going to be able to give a bit more instruction and really be able to kind of reteach things for students during that time. Again, we've got the break that's built in here because we understand that kids need to kind of wiggle around a little bit. Somebody's going to want a snack, so we want to make sure that we've got time for that. And then we're going back into math, small group math. Again, small groups with the students and the teacher, focusing on the things that that student really needs. The lunchtime we've built in here, and then we've got our time on here also for our resources. So art, PE, all of those subjects that we really want to make sure that we're included. Science and social studies, because of course that's super important. We want to make sure that we're making young engineers. And then again, this optimistic closure that we talked about, which incorporates social emotional learning. And then on the asynchronous time, there are many, many things that could happen during that time as well. So again, that's when we really want to see what are our students kind of exploring on their own? Are they able to do things at home with you? The teacher is really going to be able to help set up what this asynchronous time should look like and what's most what makes the most sense for your child. If we can go over to the next slide. So this is a bit of what students learn in kindergarten. And although it's only 4 things on this slide, it really is, there's a lot that's packed in here. And so just as we said in pre-K, students are learning those foundational skills to really help them to be able to do the algebras and the multiplication and division later. That learning continues while they're in kindergarten. Particularly when they're doing literacy, oral language is super important. The sounds that words make, again, how you can put those things together. We really start to see our students do a lot more writing once they get into kindergarten, reading stories and being able to write out what's happening there, because we're really trying to build them up so that they can become really great readers and know all of the science and structures around how to become great readers. In science, we start to see a bit more with experiments and just kind of what are they noticing and wondering. That's also a term you'll probably hear a lot between your child's teacher and from your child. So it really can extend at home with asking really great questions to your students about what do they notice and wonder. And that ties in the language piece. It can also tie in science as they're trying to think through, well, what is that thing over there and why does it do that? And it also leads students to really be able to go and explore and to ask great questions. And that's really what we're looking for students when we want them to really be excited about learning and excited about what's to come. So on this next slide, we just wanted to let you know, and as a reminder, Janice let us know of what the learning platforms are going to be for our students for this upcoming year. As Janice said, we really heard from our families, from our teachers about platforms and really wanting to make sure that teachers had a way to connect with their students. Sometimes when you're in pre-K, all you really want to do is just be able to see your teacher, and sometimes just the sound of her voice is comforting, or his or her voice is comforting. So Zoom is really going to allow for us to, that's going to be the live session. So every time that you are live with your teacher during that synchronous time, that's going to happen in Zoom. And then Seesaw, that's where you go and you can have your asynchronous work. That's where you can go and you can submit assignments. And again, because our students are young, Seesaw allows you to, well, actually, I feel like I don't want to give it all away, but Seesaw does allow us to have portfolios, and we think it's going to be a really great tool for our 4- and 5-year-olds. So let me stop talking about Seesaw because we're going to talk about that later, but I think you guys are really going to like it.
Crystal, you kind of teased up one of the questions that came in, so
okay.
I can hold that, or are you ready for another slide?
Oh, yeah, you could give me some more questions.
Okay, great. So there was a question, right, about that piece around if a student is engaging in certain activities like PE or arts or really any content, will parents be required to take photos and upload?
No, not necessarily. So the teacher is the one who can assign how they want students to kind of show what the work that they've done. So sometimes the teacher may ask that you take a picture of something. Sometimes they may ask that you do a video, or sometimes they may just give assignments just as additional practice. So again, once you get into Seesaw, it will allow you to figure out all the different ways that you can do that. For our pre-K and K students, again, not all of our students can read all the time. Our students are sometimes still using manipulatives to kind of show their work in math. So it looks a little different than just being able to have paper and pencil. So using something like Seesaw allows for students to be able to show their work in a lot of different ways.
Great, thank you. There's a few questions coming in, Crystal, around special education. So asking around, will special education services be provided virtually without disrupting synchronous learning time?
That's a great question. So yes, we're still going to have special ed services, depending upon the setting that your child is in. So we have some students who are in an inclusive setting, meaning that they get their special education services in their general ed classroom. And so those students are going to be with their same teacher. They may get pulled during small group time and have a special educator push in with them. But that's basically what it would look like for them if they were in person. They would be in with their general ed peers, and then a special ed teacher would kind of come in to support. And so we're just going to continue to keep that same model of, so what would happen in school is what's going to happen online. So we have some students who are in a separate class for preschool special ed. So they will be in their separate class in preschool special ed, and their teacher will be the one who is leading that for them. And so all of the services that your child gets, the speech therapy, occupational therapy, they'll be getting those services. You'll hear a bit more from those providers around what that will look like or what the times will be, but the IEPs will stand. They'll still be getting those services. Of course, it's just going to look a little bit different now because it's going to be virtual.
Great, thank you. Crystal, there is the question that comes up in every forum that we hold, and I think is so validated for families right now. Families asking questions around, if I work, what are ways that we can support our students at home? Or if I, have other students that I can't necessarily sit with my child one-on-one, any advice that we're giving around that?
Yes, so I'm not a parent myself, but I asked many parents this question because I know that it's a question that a lot of our parents have. And so some of the things that I heard was kind of setting aside a time in your workday to say that you can't take calls during that time. So maybe you can be on email during that time, but you can't be on calls during that time, so that you can sit near your child while they're online, just to make sure that they're still attending, but you don't necessarily have to physically be sitting right next to them. Some other tips that we've seen are to create kind of a workspace within your home. And you can do this again with some inexpensive things from Walmart. Target always has that dollar cart where everyone goes and spends way more money than $1. But you can go and get some of those tools and create like a small desk or something for your child. And just kind of make sure that that's where they do their learning, so that they get in the habit of kind of like going to school. Another thing that is really great for students, especially at this age, is just creating a routine and a schedule. And so just like we would if students were coming into school, we want to wake up at 8:30, we want to have breakfast, we brush our teeth, and then we sit down at 9, because at 9 o'clock, we're going to be on live with Ms. Crystal. And it really helps to get students into the routine. Printing up a schedule so students can see, even if they can't read yet, you can use pictures to show them what's going to happen throughout the day. So those are just a couple of the tips that we wanted to share that we've heard from some families that they found to be really successful and helpful for them.
Great, thank you for those tips, and super appreciative of the families that shared the information with you as well. I'm going to give you a little break for a minute, Crystal. There are a couple of questions that have come up around attendance and ways that we are tracking student attendance and can monitor for that. So Dr. Warren is here with us. So Dr. Warren, if you could pop on.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see you here. I oversee the Office of Whole Child Services and Support, which includes our work around attendance. So first of all, I just want to reassure you that we recognize that these are not normal times, and there are going to be lots of things that interfere with people's schedules and make it challenging for some folks to fit to the exact schedules that we have. So on the one hand, we want to make sure that we are getting our students in front of teachers for live sessions as much as possible, but we understand that there will be extenuating circumstances. And so our attendance guidance is going to allow for students to participate in learning asynchronously, meaning on their own, away from the time that the teacher is working with them directly. But what we would ask is that if that ends up being an issue for your family, that you reach out to your teacher and your school directly and work out an agreement with them about how that will work. And now, if it's just a one-time thing on a particular day, then you should reach out for that day. If there's a longer-term issue that needs attention and you may need more of an accommodation in that way, then you can work that out too. We are leaving it up to schools to determine exactly what the evidence of participation in that asynchronous learning looks like. And we will ask that it be done on the same day or by the start of school or the same class on the next day. But we will give credit for attendance on a day as long as there is that evidence that you have worked out with the school about what the asynchronous learning was that was done. And this evidence, when I say evidence, I don't mean it has to be anything fancy. It can be potentially as simple as just the family sharing a report on what the student did in their learning process. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And of course, again, we want our students to be present with our teachers live as much as possible, but we're trying to show some flexibility as well.
Thanks for that, Dr. Warren. Don't go anywhere yet. I just want to connect that back to the earlier question that came up around connections. Not only will teachers meet with students live, especially in pre-K and K, there will be opportunities for the families to have conversations with teachers as well. So that's what Dr. Warren was speaking of too. Dr. Warren also manages the social and emotional learning work here in the district. And Dr. Warren, some of the questions that are coming up are, how are we going to address just the aspect of getting to know one another, right? So important, especially for students in this first introduction to school. And I just want to tease up that that is our topic for week 3. But Dr. Warren, I don't know if you want to give just a little preview of that for families.
Sure, yeah, I'll give a little bit of an appetizer. So I just want to say that, I mean, any year when we're starting school, the emphasis at the start of the school year should be on all of us getting to know each other, and particularly on our students getting to know each student well and each family. But this year, of course, because we're in such a strange and unusual environment, we want to make sure that we put even more emphasis on that relationship and community building process. So we are asking our schools during the first couple of weeks and even the first month to really prioritize and carve out time to support that, that community building and relationship building process. We will be doing some professional development for teachers and administrators around that over the next couple of weeks. And as Denise Lane just said, we will be coming back and talking with you more about those issues around student wholeness and social emotional learning in a couple of weeks.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Warren, for joining us. I am going to transition us. Again, please continue to have your questions posted in the Q&A. We have the team, and Crystal will now join that team in answering some of those questions, but I'm going to call forward Brandon Tillman, again, our Director of Enrollment. Brandon, and allow you to share a little bit around the process, and then there's a few questions we'll be asking of you as well.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. Again, I am Brandon Tillman, and I have the honor of serving you, our families, as the Director of City Schools Enrollment. So as a member of the enrollment team, I must say that this is absolutely our favorite season of the year. But I know that it can also be an emotional experience for some families, and that the challenges of this past spring and summer have resulted in city schools making a few changes to our traditional enrollment processes that as launched in previous years. So with such, we have embarked upon an online registration process, which really allows you to enroll your student from the comfort of your home or workplace at the convenience of your own schedule. You can simply use our school locator. We have the link here, but we're also going to place it in our chat to locate your neighborhood school. And then you can access the actual online application tool to complete and submit your registration package. With such, we have our documents that are required. They are listed right there. For more information, you can go to our City Schools Enrollment webpage. For our proof of student age and identity, we have such things as our birth certificates, our U.S. passports. We also ask for proof of guardian identity as well. Same thing can be accepted: driver's license, birth certificate, U.S. passports, other documentation. We have 2 proofs of residency that we do require. For the complete listing, you can visit our webpage again, but we do accept our utility bills, verifiable lease agreements, rent receipts, things of that nature. And for pre-K specifically, we have to request proof of household income. We do have an online registration manual that we have created that goes step by step and walks you through the particular process. But we are always available to help you. You can contact your school enrollment official, or you can contact us here at district office. Our email address is posted, enrollment@bcps.k12.md.us, or simply give us a call at 410-396-8600. And just a reminder, any student that will be 4 or 5 is eligible to enroll in city schools pre-K or kindergarten programs. Submit your applications today. We are waiting for them, and we thank you for trusting us with the education and care of your children. It's a responsibility that we take very seriously. Janice, we have additional questions?
Yes, we do have some questions popping up for you. One of the questions is, what should a family expect once they've enrolled? When will they hear from someone? What are their next steps? Will the school contact them, etc.?
Sure. So once we have the application enrolled into the system, it takes us maybe 2 to 3 days to go through and to approve all of those different applications. Right now, this is our peak season because we are in the middle of our enrollment window, but we are trying to get through all of the applications very swiftly. Certainly, if you have any questions and if you have not heard from a particular school enrollment official, please give us a call or send us an email. We will certainly respond very promptly to your inquiries.
Great. Another question is, can pre-K be skipped for students just to go right into kindergarten?
So if students are 5, they do qualify directly for kindergarten. We do support children enrolling into pre-K because it sets up a strong foundation for learning to follow. So we don't encourage skipping pre-K. We think that it is definitely an academic resource that's invaluable to our families.
Great. I think that's a good connection to earlier, the points that Crystal was sharing around how pre-K sets that foundation.
Yes.
Play and for the information going forward in kindergarten. So thank you for that. Can you tell us, or do you know information about when a school then may reach, or when a parent could find out who their teacher is going to be?
So certainly our schools are in the process of actually creating the schedules at this particular time. So as soon as they are finalized, I believe that they are going to email some of the schedules out to the families. Certainly information about that will be coming out on our webpage and in our communication in the coming weeks. So we certainly will send that out to our families.
Great. And then we have 2 related ones, Brandon, but really important. If a child was enrolled in pre-K, are they automatically enrolled in kindergarten?
Yes. So our enrollment process rolls over to the next grade. So certainly if they were enrolled in pre-K, they have rolled over into kindergarten. And if any family has any questions or concerns about their school or their placement, certainly we do encourage them to give us a call so we can walk them through and assist them in that way.
Great. And this one's related, but a different age span. So just to make sure folks are clear, if my child was in a public pre-K 3 program, will they be automatically enrolled, or should I re-enroll her?
So they should automatically be re-enrolled into their particular school, but certainly every case is different. So certainly if there are specific questions that families have about their specific student, we do encourage them to get in touch with us, and we certainly can look into them and walk them through that particular process and support them.
Great. Brandon, I think we are caught up with the enrollment questions, but I know you will stick around in case more come up, and we may do some generic questions at the end, but thank you for your time and your passion for our students and for our families.
Thank you, and I just want to say to all the families, we cannot wait to welcome your child to his or her new school in a few weeks.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to now ask Shana MacGyver to come to the front, and Shana is going to share with you some of the family resources and some of the opportunities for families, and then we'll follow the same format. Please continue to put your questions and thoughts in the chat, and then also we will have time with Shana after to answer some questions as well. Shana?
Thank you, Janice. Hello again, everyone. I'm Shana MacGyver, the Family Engagement Director. I'm so pleased to see that so many of you decided to join us this evening, and most importantly, that you decided to trust us with your little people. I'm not going to be before you long, but I'm just going to share a few resources that I think that you all may appreciate. The first of which is our parent support groups. In collaboration with various district offices, the Family Engagement Team will host virtual parent support group sessions for families and caregivers, the first of which will take place on September the 16th at 5:30. We know that many families are working from home and that you all will try your best to manage work schedules as well as your child's online school expectations. It's a lot, we know. Virtual family support groups would be a place for parents to ask questions, get answers, and feel safe and understood within a community of parents like yourself. You'll have the opportunity to swap stories and parenting strategies and also express frustrations and concerns in an open forum. A parent could join via phone, computer. There'll be facilitators and moderators on hand. So look out for more details to come. We believe that there is great potential for this resource for our families. Another great resource is our Family University. Parents and families will have access to webinars and opportunities to learn more about virtual learning platforms, technology, wellness, homeschool partnerships, and district resources, as well as clarity around the role and their role in online learning, how to create home learning spaces, and details around academic milestones, exactly what success looks like for your children. Families will be informed of all offerings via our website beginning in September. Last but not least, virtual advocacy and decision making, right? These are things we have to consider in our new normal. We are relaunching school family councils, which we're very excited about. School family councils, are like school advisory groups made up of various stakeholders in the schoolhouse and in the school community. We'll also be scaling up training supports for organized parent groups. Both are opportunities at the school level for families and community stakeholders to learn what's happening, express their voices, collaborate with school teams, and finally to lead from their seat. Thanks again so much for joining us this evening. Please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, the engagement office, if there are any questions regarding family and community engagement. Welcome to the district. We see you and we value the role that you play in homeschool partnerships. So that's all I have for right now. I'm going to turn it back over to Janice.
Thank you so much, Shana, for those very thoughtful and engaging opportunities for our families. We're going to play a little bit of catch up here now because we do have some questions for Brandon that didn't come up before, but I know no one is going far. So Shana, I may come back to you in a few with a question or two for you. So thank you for that information. Brandon,
sure.
We've got two questions that came up. One is I completed the registration packet back when it first opened and actually gave you the registration application number. I haven't heard anything back. How do I know if it worked? The school is not answering.
So certainly those are the types of inquiries that certainly we encourage families to send us an email. We monitor our enrollment at BCPS inbox every single day. So certainly if that parent can send us or send me the actual application number, I can definitely look into the situation. Many of our families that applied early on have already been enrolled. One of the things that we made some customizations to the actual application now that allows us to directly communicate with families through the application. That process was not necessarily in the first rollout for our priority one families. So certainly right now we can do that, and we will be happy to assist those particular families that have questions and concerns.
Great. And another one, Brandon, a family reached out and said our school wouldn't complete our child's K registration without income verification, which we thought was only for pre-K. We've tried to contact the district, but we haven't gotten a response back yet. What can that family do?
Sure. So certainly, again, we for specific cases like that, we ask for families to reach out to us, and certainly we can make contact with the school and the school leaders on their behalf to inquire as to what has happened and to remedy the situation. We'll be happy to support them in that way.
Great. Thank you, Brandon. Those are the only ones I have for you right now. I just want to remind folks while you're on the line that we do have 2 more sessions that will happen next Wednesday and the following Wednesday. We'll talk through those. Also, another reminder that you want to make sure that you have your child's immunizations taken care of. That's another important feature. Even though we're working virtually, at some given point, we're hoping to bring our students back together and engage in learning, and we want to make sure that everyone is healthy and strong to do that. So immunizations are still required. We want to make sure that they can continue to be a focus for you and for your family. So Crystal, I'm going to call you back for a couple of minutes. There's a couple of questions for you. One of the questions that continues to come up is around devices and device availability. Will all students get devices, even pre-K and K students?
Yes, so as long as your student is enrolled in a city school's traditional school program, they will get devices. So as we know, the district kind of paused and switched from device distribution at district office to the schools. So I believe that's going to start back up again, I think on Monday. So definitely check the website for those official dates. And then I would just make sure that you give your school a call to find out, you know, what time all of that will be available. But yes, as soon as you are registered, your child will be able to receive a device as well.
Great, thank you. Another one for you, Crystal, was around packets. There's one parent that said, you know, that they printed 72 pages of packets over the spring and that was really tough, right? Not just for them, but for their students. And then another parent wanted to know if packets are available. Can you give us an update around packets for pre-K and K?
So sorry that you had to print 72 pages to that parent. So we are trying to transition for the fall into not having to have so much of that printed work for families, because we do understand that it's taxing either to have to print them or to constantly have to be in a pickup mode. So we really want to move more of the work virtually and to have it be online. It can still be individualized for students. We are going to have some family-based activities that aren't necessarily going to require children to sit down with, you know, paper and crayons. So it may be do a read aloud with your child, and then we can help you model what a read aloud can look like. Or it may be go gather sets of 3 things around your home. So again, nothing that would require, that wouldn't require a pencil and paper, but are things that you could still do and are still learning. So there may be some instances in which the child may have to draw, or they're going to have to practice writing out words. But our intention is really to not have to have folks have to have all of that paper that we used up last year, and trying to see if we can transition more of these activities online for you, and then just being able to use the things that are around your house. Because as we know, for our pre-K and K students, kind of experiential and hands-on learning is really where they learn so much.
Great. Crystal, there's another question around, are we doing learning only on certain dates, or are the learning activities scheduled every day of the week for students?
So we're doing learning every day. Again, we really wanted to make sure that we're building up some consistency for our students. And so we want to make sure, just like I said earlier, like we wake up, we have breakfast, and then we sit down and we do our learning. So we want to make sure that we've got something that's very consistent. So every day students will be online. Again, once your teacher can reach out to you, your teacher and principal, and you can have those conversations around the times that that's going to happen. But we do want to make sure that our students are engaging every single day.
Great. There's another really good question that has come up numerous times around the parent portal. I'm not sure, Crystal, if that's you or if there's somebody else on the call that can help, but they said they're trying to sign in as a new parent into the parent portal. The school said to go to the tech department, and the tech department sent them and said, go to the school. Do you have any information about the parent portal, or is there?
I think that may be an IT question.
Okay, I'm not sure. Let me just see if somebody steps up. If not, that will be one that we will definitely get some information for you. We will make sure that we can post that information and that you will have that. Brandon, is that something you might have insight to?
So troubleshooting for the parent portal would definitely be under IT, but we do have additional guidance that we will be posting online. I do know that we work with IT to ask us questions specifically about parent portal as it relates to enrollment, and that should be posted by tomorrow online for families to go through. So certainly we will connect with them and make sure that we can assess those questions. I will say if the families have specific questions, they can also utilize our enrollment address, and I'll be happy to serve kind of as the mediator with IT to get their specific questions resolved.
Great, thank you so much. Shayna, I do have a question for you. Families want to know how the support groups, that they'll find out about them. Will they automatically be emailed to them? How will they find out information around the offerings?
Sure. Thanks, Janice. Everyone on this listserv will send the information out to them, but we'll also make public this information on the website and I would imagine on our social media platforms.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I just want to, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Just want to take a minute and thank everybody for their time this evening. We are running down into our last few minutes, but there's about 2 more questions that I think we can get a quick answer to. One is, will I need a printer? As a parent, do I need a printer at home? Crystal, can you hit that one for us quickly?
I would say no, I don't have a printer at home either. So again, I think just being able to utilize the things that are around your house, if you can get a good pack of construction paper, some good crayons, again, glue sticks, scissors, those really basic things, you'd really be amazed at the things that you're able to do with learning with just some of those basic materials. So I would look for those things first and not have to spend your money on printers.
Great. And Crystal, the last one I'll give to you tonight. Am I understanding this correctly? If the expectation for the teachers that they will guide pre-K and K students through each component of the lesson, and parents will not need to help or teach and will just need to be nearby answering emails or in another room in the house. Can you clarify some information around that for us?
Sure. So again, during that synchronous time, that's when the teacher is going to be live with the student. So you'll know your child best to know how they'll be able to kind of attend during that time. I'm very sure that in the beginning of the school year, it's going to take a lot more reminders to have them sit down, or you may need to sit closer to them while they just kind of get used to what's happening. But we're hoping that our students will soon be able to kind of know that this is the time that they are on with their teacher and that they'll be able to attend on their own. So then you maybe don't have to be directly in the same room with them, or maybe you can be at another side of a room with your student while they are learning. And again, the teacher is the one who's really going to make sure that they are giving that new content to students. And just like you would if students were in pre-K in person, they're going to learn all of that content while they're at school. And then when they come home, they're going to want to tell you about it. You're going to ask some additional questions and maybe find some common connections where they can generalize those skills around the house. It's going to be the same thing. It's just going to be that the learning and the school part is all still going to be happening right there at home.
Great. Thank you, Crystal. I want to take just a quick minute to thank all of our experts that were here with us, but most importantly, I want to thank you, our families, for spending time with us tonight, really learning what we're doing, but also asking us wonderful questions that allow us to ensure that we are doing exactly what you need. They will also help frame what we need to continue to improve on or bring information to you. So again, I just want to remind you that we do have 2 more sessions coming up. Our session next week is one that we'll be talking about the content. So we'll be talking about what reading and math and science and social studies and the arts and the pieces we teased up tonight will look like in pre-K and K. We'll also be talking about brain-based work as well as play-based instruction and how that is fostered in your homes with your students. And then finally, week 3, we'll be coming together and talking about those social emotional supports, also thinking about the connections that you all highlighted that are so important. And finally, looking at our Seesaw platform so you can get comfortable with knowing what's coming, where those supports are, some of the family resources that Shayna highlighted for us. So again, just want to thank you on behalf of City Schools for coming with us, trusting us, also learning with us, and pushing us to do better in everything that we do. We really hope to see you again next week, We will be advertising that both on our information settings that you see. So on Twitter, on Facebook, on the different pieces. I know folks were asking about registration for that, so we'll make sure that's available, as well as the information we shared tonight will be available tomorrow on the website for you. So again, want to thank everyone. Want to make sure that you have a safe and happy evening with your family. So take care, and we will see you soon. Thanks again.